Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third session of the Phase 2 online training series for the promotion of well-being in schools in Southeast Asia. And today, the training topic is, I think that this one is many participants request us that to conduct this training session because really needed and really timely for every school right now. So the topic of today is implementing food safety and food waste management in schools. And I guess that everybody are ready for joining the training session. May I see our participants right now? Okay. So I would like to check with you, how do you feel today? This afternoon, especially this afternoon. Okay, may you please send me the emoji to ensure that you are with us. I got one answer from Malaysia, Miss Masrusra. And also from the Philippines, Baptist Elementary School, Marriott. And also from Baptist as well, Miss Rose Ann. And also from Malaysia, Akila. Thank you so much. May I hear from Indonesia and Cambodia? Hi, Miss Piyapa from Frankie, Indonesia. Hi, sir. How are you? From Indonesia, is there any participants? Oh, perfect, sir. Thank you. Thank you for joining with us. I think I saw your name in, in 3 sessions. Okay. And then from Indonesia, from Miss Nurul Mustafa. Yeah, from the Philippines. And from Cambodia now, Mr. Vanny. Hello. All right, okay. And from the Miss Melita. Wow. Thank you so much for joining with us today. I think this is the session that you are looking forward to being with us, right? So for this session, you will learn about the practical tips on how to improve food safety and food waste management as a part of the school meal program and school well-being improvement. And for the today training session, let me go to the agenda for you. So, after my introduction will be the presentation from our invited speaker, Dr. Jessa C. Fernandez. He was the former Deputy Director of the Simeo Regional Center for Food and Nutrition. And after that will be the Q&A. And then photo session and post-training evaluation and attendance check. So I hope that you will be with us from the end of the session. So I hope that by 4 p.m. So 4 p.m. Bangkok time or 5 p.m. in Brunei, Malaysia, and Philippines. So we could end the session. All right. Okay, for the next slide, please. Right. So for the today's session, we are very pleased to have Dr. Jesus C. Fernandez, former Deputy Director of the Simeo Regional Center for Food and Nutrition and freelance consultant, to be our speaker on this topic. And I hope that our participants are familiar with Dr. Jess since he has involved in the project since the beginning as the expert speaker and also school proposal evaluation committee. And Dr. Fernandez, or I call him in short Dr. Jess, has been with the Simeo family over than 25 years. So he was the Deputy Director for Program Development of the Simeo Regional Center for Tropical Biology, or we call in short the Simeo Biotrop, and Simeo Rekfon, or Simeo Regional Center for Food and Nutrition in Indonesia for over 10 years. And his specialization including like human resource and institutional development, community development, knowledge management, and system-based solutions. So, Dr. Jess, may I invite you to be on the virtual stage? All right, everybody, please welcome Dr. Jess. Okay, may I ask everyone to send the emoji to welcome Dr. Jess? Okay, Dr. Jess, are you ready? Okay.
Yes.
The floor is yours, Dr. Jess.
Okay. So can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay. So thank you very much, Pia Pa, and it's my honor and pleasure to be with you again, especially for those teachers who were selected for this project. And I understand there are other teachers or participants from other schools who are joining us this afternoon for this session. So, like what Pia Pa said, I will be giving you some concepts, principles, and even some ideas on how to practice or implement food safety and food waste management in your schools. But before that, we would just like to have some um pre-testing, so to speak, or some games on Mentimeter. I think most of you are familiar with this kind of warm-up that SimUSEPs will always give before the presentation. So I would like to request our staff, our colleagues from senior steps to please play the Mentimeter. Get ready to answer these questions. I think these are only 7 questions, and I hope well, there's no just answer it because this is just to give me an idea how much you already know something about food safety and food waste management. So let's go. Ready to answer this? So first question. Bacteria grow quickly in food under what temperature? So there are 3 options: 0 to 5 degrees centigrade, 8 to 63 degrees centigrade, or above 73 degrees centigrade. So what do you think? Okay. Any more? I think we only have like 10 now. Okay, 12. So I think we have about 20 so far participants this afternoon. So come on, choose your answer.
Dr. Jess, may I interrupt that we already sent the link in the chat box, so our participants can click in the chat box to
Okay.
for the Mentimeter link directly to the questions.
Okay. So in this case, so we can see now the result for this question. Yeah. So for those who answered 8 degrees to 63 degrees centigrade, so you got the right answer. So just remember this. I will be explaining this much later on during the presentation. But bacteria really grow quickly if you have to store your food under 8 degrees to 63 degrees Celsius. Okay. Next. So food contamination can be biological, physical, chemical, or all of the above. Okay, right. Seems like everybody knows this. So let's see the answer. The correct answer is wow. Yes, it could be biological, it could be physical and chemical. And again, we will be explaining that and discussing that much more during the presentation. But good to know that most of you know that contamination can be any of this, right? Next question. So, question is we should store raw meats on the upper shelf of the freezer of the refrigerator. Is it true or is it false? What do you think? Hmm. Quite difficult, right? But most of you said it's true. So let's see the answer. Yeah, it's false, ladies and gentlemen. You should not be putting your raw meats, remember it's raw meats, on the upper part of the shelf of the freezer because it may leak and contaminate those under it. So try to remember this so you will avoid some food contamination. So all raw meat should be stored at the lower portion of your freezer of the refrigerator. Okay, next slide. So this is the fourth question, and we still have 3 more. Let's see. FIFO or FIFO method is one of the good food storage practices. And FIFO means what? So anybody have encountered this acronym? Looks like some of you are familiar. So 10 said it's first in, first out. The others first inspect and follow order. Okay, let's see the answer. The answer is first in and first out. I think some of you have been practicing this because 10 of you or more than 10 got the right answer. This is a common thing that we do when we store our food. So we will explain much more about that during the presentation. But good to know that most of you got it. Next. Okay. Where do food gets wasted the most? Is it in the farm? Is it after harvest or in store or at home and or restaurants or even schools? You may say that. So most of you said at home and in restaurants. Mm-hmm. Okay, so one of you said in the farm, or three of you said in the farm. Okay, let's see the answer. Okay, four. Let's see the answer to this question. Yeah, so some of you said maybe in the restaurant at the home, but based on records of FAO, most of the foods are wasted the most at the farm, in the farm, because there are a lot of things going on in the farm. If you notice, they can be subjected to biological, physical, and chemical contamination in the farm. So now we know it. Okay, so the next question. Composting is one of the methods in food waste management. Is it true or false? Mm-hmm. Okay, what about the rest? So everybody, it seems like majority says it's true. Okay, let's see the answer to this question. Yes, composting is one of the methods in food waste management. Remember the three R? Recycling, reuse, and all these things, but partly it's more on recycling. Composting is one of the methods. So I think some of you, those who have school gardening activities, you already know this one. Yeah. Okay, the last question, I believe this is the last question. So, reducing food losses and waste can one, improve global nutrition and food security, two, reduce greenhouse and gas emissions, three, or C, improve financial savings for farmers and businesses, or all of the above. Let's see. What about the rest? Uh-huh. So, okay. So I think the majority says it's all of the above. And the answer to this question is, let's see. Yes. So you see the importance now of really reducing food waste because it can really have more impacts to all of us if we have more knowledge on food waste, then we can really improve global nutrition and food security, reduce greenhouse and gas emissions, as well as really help the businesses, even as consumers and the farmers, to really have some savings because there's nothing lost when we do food waste management. So good. I'm happy that most of you got most of the answers, and this is an indication that maybe some of you already have some idea of how we can really ensure food safety and also food waste management. But this time, allow me now to give you my presentation, and I hope you can learn a lot from my presentation. So if you have some questions, so reserve your questions, or perhaps you can now type it in the chat box, and then our colleagues from CMU SEPs will collect them and also uh, present it later on during the Q&A portion. So allow me now to share my PowerPoint. Okay. Am I coming it clear to all of you?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so I will just have to put it on slide presentation, right? Okay. Can you see now the whole slide?
Yes, Ka, we can see it very
Okay.
clear.
Okay, great. So, like we said, this is all about implementing food safety and food waste management in schools. Perhaps some of you have already been implementing it, but perhaps during this session you can learn more and then you can improve your practices in your respective schools. So, our objective here actually, as Ms. Piepa said, is for you to really enhance your knowledge and even your practice towards enabling you to create a food safety and food waste management culture among your respective school community members. Perhaps your teachers already know that, but what about your students? What about your personnel? What about the parents? What about the community around? Are they aware of food safety and food waste management? So we are talking about your school community members, not only the teachers, but everybody that has stakes um, on your school. So this will be the objective of our session this afternoon. Okay. So for the session scope, I hope you can read this. Unfortunately, I chose a brighter color as a background. So on food safety, I'll discuss about why is it important, and then what are the threats for food safety, and where does contamination occur, because this is very important for you to know. And then what are the basic steps, and how do we label our food for those of you who are selling food in your canteen, and also how do you store your food and how do you manage your inventory. And lastly, let's see how we can really develop a food safety culture in your respective school. On food waste management, I just want to give you some background on the impact of food losses and waste globally, and where do food gets lost or wasted. I think some of you answered correctly in the Mentimeter earlier on. And then the importance of practicing food safety or food waste management and the types of food waste. There are a lot of types, but perhaps we need to be very familiar with them, and then how to really manage them. And another thing for the school, perhaps if some of you have not been practicing this, this is very important to have some food waste audit, and then how to develop the culture for all the school community members to practice food waste management. So this will be the scope of my presentation. I hope this will be very relevant to all of you. Okay, so let's go first with the food safety. So um, why is it important that we ensure food safety in schools? I think most of you perhaps have already encountered some cases among your students, because we would like to prevent occurrences of foodborne diseases. Well, um, the most common, I did not finish this PowerPoint, but there are a lot of salmonella um, infections, or even E. coli, and also diarrhea, and also hepatitis, and so on and so forth, that most of the students get them from schools, or even eating food from outside immediate of the school surroundings. And perhaps this is also true in the homes. So this is very important, because there are some cases wherein foodborne diseases or illnesses are very fatal and could lead to death unless they are addressed immediately. So this is just one thing that we need to emphasize among the schools to really ensure food safety. So, and then, like I said, in the Mentimeter, there are three ways, or the threats to food safety. These are biological, physical, and chemical. When we say biological, the food is contaminated by any living organism of the raw material that you have. So, like, worms and pests and all those things that could contaminate the food biologically. When we talk about it physically, so it means that foreign object also enters the food at any stage of the production, especially when you said earlier on in the Mentimeter that most of the food um, are wasted also in the farm. That's why when the food is contaminated physically, get in contact with any foreign object, that is where contamination occurs. But the most prevalent kind of contamination is chemical. So from the farm itself, you will do like pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, and during the processing, there will be a lot of contamination in terms of the chemical that are being used for processing the food, or even in the cooking, the oil, and everything that you put in when you are cooking and preparing for the food that is chemical in nature becomes the food threat, the threats for food safety. So when we say where do contamination occur, like I said, you can see here in the photo, the food production chain. So from the production until the home consumption is where the food can be contaminated. And now we go back to the threats, whether it will be biological or physical or chemical contamination. All this contamination can occur from the production, from the processing, from the preparation in the restaurants for the distribution, transportation, and up to retailing and also the consumption. This is a wide scope where food can be contaminated. So it's very important that we are aware of how it can be contaminated and how we can really prevent the contamination along this food production chain. I hope it's clear. Am I going fast? Just let me know if I'm going fast so I can slow down a bit. If not, then I can continue, right? Okay. So there are four basic steps to food safety. Perhaps you have heard about this. So the first one is clean. Second is separate. Third is cook, and the fourth one is chill. So I will be discussing them one by one. But the latest um regulation or instruction from FAO and other international organizations, they added one more step, and this is about using safe water and raw materials, because even though you clean, separate, and chill, but the quality of water that you use and also the raw materials that you use are not good, then it is also an issue for food safety of the consumer. So now it becomes five steps, and I will be discussing them one by one. Okay, so when we talk about clean, um, first thing to do is to really make sure that we maintain a clean and sanitized workplace. What I'm referring is if you have a canteen, then you should make sure that your canteen is very sanitized. This includes the countertops, the cutting boards, the utensils, and all the food preparation surfaces where you will be preparing or coming up with processing the food that you will be selling or offering to your students. And this is also, you need to make sure that you get rid of pests and diseases in your kitchen, in your canteen. I think Dr. Sandra has already gave you some tips on how to avoid having cockroaches or rodents or rats and other insects in your area. So I think you need to really follow the instructions or the information given by Dr. Sandra yesterday on making sure that your area for food production is clean. And of course, everybody knows this. We should wash our hands, and at least that will be 20 seconds with soap and warm water before and after handling food, especially after touching raw meat, poultry, and seafood or eggs. Some of us um, would say, like, I have already washed my hands, and then we cut our meat, and then we forgot to wash our hands again, and we get the vegetable, and then we don't know whether you put your hands right after cutting the meat, and then you get your vegetables again, and then they get contaminated. So always wash your hands before and after touching any raw materials, food materials. Okay. And last, when we talk about cleaning, is regularly clean and sanitize kitchen equipment and appliances. Don't let your knives, your spoons, your all those utensils that you use after cooking just be in the sink. Right away, clean them and dry them, because once you get, I mean, you don't wash them right away, and then they get contaminated. The pests, cockroaches, rodents, and all those things that you have in your canteen, then they can get contaminated, and then perhaps you forget to wash them right away with soap and clean water, then they get contaminated, and your food can get contaminated also. Okay, that's all about when you talk about clean. So when you talk about separate, so it's all about separating raw meat, poultry, seafoods, and eggs from ready to eat food such as fruits, vegetables, and even your cooked dishes. So you will avoid contamination. Sometimes in a school canteen, you put them all together in the what they call this etalase, or the glass container there, and they get contaminated. But in most cases, it's very important that you have some separation of the fruits. Don't put them on cooked food nearby or in the raw materials, so you can avoid contamination. And this is very important also from the very start. You prepare the food, your cutting board should be one for the meats and the poultry or seafood, and you have another one for raw vegetables or cooked food. So even the knives that you use, the cutting knife, that has to be sometimes, as a good practice, you label your cutting boards for meat and also the cutting boards for vegetables, so they don't get contaminated when you prepare your food. And this is also the question in the Mentimeter. You have to store the meats on the bottom shelf of the refrigerator to prevent drips or spills onto other drafts. Because, like, right after you buy the meat from the market and then you put them in plastic container or whatever container you would like to store them, sometimes you don't wipe them and they are dripping coming up, and then right away you put it on your refrigerator and you don't realize that there are drippings already going on for other foods below them, so they get contaminated. So always make sure that meat should be at the bottom shelf of the refrigerator, so they you will avoid contamination. And that's a principle of separation on food safety. When you talk about cook, there are a lot of things to remember. I don't remember them also, but there are some temperature that you need to follow when you cook. There are appropriate internal temperature to kill harmful bacteria. For those of you who are now uh, using air fryer or microwave or all these things, it's easy now to monitor them or set them in the right temperature. Before, we only use direct frying pan and we cannot measure the temperature unless you have the thermometer that you would like to use that. But these are very critical thing, because when you undercook a meat or a fish, then not we're not very sure if all bacteria are already killed, and so we produce or we generate some foodborne diseases to the consumers. And if you see at the lower portion, the last bullet is when you reheat leftover over food, because sometimes we have some extra food, and then school canteen will be just reheating them and sell them again the next day. So make sure that the temperature is about 74 degrees centigrade, so you can kill the bacteria and there were no more grown bacteria during the storage. So that's the principle of cooking for food safety. And last but not okay, the fourth one is really storing the food properly. So there are also prescribed temperature by FAO and other international food organizations on when or where to store the food at what temperature. So I will give you the table later on. But what is important is when you are storing some hot food, you store them in small containers so they will be they cool off easily, and instead of putting them in one big container and then you put it in the refrigerator. So it will take time for you to achieve the right temperature when you put them in the refrigerator. And then you always thaw your frozen food. So remember, when you now store your meat on the freezer, before you cook, you have to take it out so it will become soft again. When you do that, you should be doing that on a running water, or you can use the microwave, or um, right away, put them outside of the freezer, inside the refrigerator, but never in a room temperature. Because when you put them in the room temperature, then again, remember that the bacteria grow quickly at room temperature 8 degrees centigrade to 63 degrees centigrade. So at room temperature is where these temperatures exist. So, and then lastly, leftovers should be put in the refrigerator within 2 hours of serving to prevent contamination. So you have perhaps have read in the internet, so you have to store your rice 2 hours after, so it will not be contaminated, because rice, you can grow bacteria easily when they are just stored in room temperature. So these are some of the rules when you ensure food safety in terms of chilling them. Okay. So last safety rule is this. Now I can give it to you. So it's better to really see that food are stored in below 18 degrees, because bacteria do not grow in 18 degrees. When you store it in 8 degrees to 62 degrees, bacteria grow very quickly. And so at least temperature zone, danger zone is this 8 degrees to 63 degrees. But it will be very good to refrigerate your food below 8 degrees so it will not grow any bacteria. Or to heat the food, hot food should be kept at 63 degrees or above. Okay, so I think I will give you this. The PowerPoint is already in the chat box, so you can go back to this when you have time to study again. So using what they call this quality or safe water is very important. So it means that make sure that the quality source that you have, like for example, there are some schools where quality the water source are pump well or deep well, or make sure that when you use that, you have to boil them so it will be safer to use for cooking preparation. And then make sure that when you cook the raw vegetables, try to inspect them whether they are contaminated by insects or the discoloration and all this stuff. So this is the last step that you would like to know before you prepare your food, having using your safe water and raw materials. Okay, so now I go to, for those of you who are selling food in your school canteen, some now are prescribed to really label the food that you have there so your students would know how safe is your food. And that this is also to establish your credibility that the food that you prepare are really safe for them. So like at least you should name the food or the dish that you will offer in your canteen. So let your students know what it is, describe it, what is it, meat or vegetable or combination, specify the major ingredients. And if they have some allergens, sometimes you see now some of the food like there is allergen, so be careful. And also, what is the taste description? Is it salty, sweet, sour, and things like that? Because there are some food preferences of your students. And you may also like to label your food, what kind of preparation you have. Like, is it sauteed, you grilled it, you boiled it, steamed it, or baked it, or altered it, or processed it? I think your consumers, the students, or even the teachers would know also because, again, people have different preferences. So if we have this, then we can avoid some food losses, also food waste later on. And of course, and definitely, this is very important, we also put some information about the nutrient or the energy or the calorie values of the food that we offer in the canteen. If we would like to educate our students about balanced nutrition, proper nutrition, so they know whether they're eating a lot of sugar, how many calories would that be, or the energy equivalent to that, or these things are very important when you are selling food in your canteen. And these some good practices on food storage and inventory. I have mentioned this in the Mentimeter, first in and first out method. So whatever you put in the first in your refrigerator or storage area, you have to take it out first also in terms of uh, not being spoiled. And that's why it will prevent spoilage when you have to use the older food that you put in before you use the latest raw materials that you put in your storage. And label items with purchase dates to track inventory age. If they is expired or past its good for use date, then throw it away. Sometimes we say, oh, maybe it can be used still, maybe one more month or 2 more months because they are sealed. But for food safety, might as well throw them, especially for those that are like uh, vegetables in the can or processed food in the can. So you might as well throw them for food safety. And rotate your stock so that the older food items and ingredients are used before newer stocks. So it's very important that when you buy your food supplies in the school, you have an inventory of the date. And so you can also have an inventory of the expiration of the food, and so you can keep track on which one to use first and which one to use later. So that's a good practice on ensuring food safety in using your food inventory. Okay, so I end up my presentation on food safety. So we go to food waste management. I hope I still have time, Piapa. So quickly,
Yes, Dr.
uh,
Jess, you have time ค่ะ
okay, great. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like just for you to realize that there are a lot of food losses that are incurring globally, and 24% of the world's calories go uneaten. We waste those food energies and calories that are supposed to be taken by all of us and get the right nutrition. So it's about 1 billion tons of food is lost every year. Just imagine that. And even in Southeast Asia, despite of this, you would see that Southeast Asian countries have higher index of hunger. So we experience a lot of food hunger in Southeast Asia. But we are not conscious that we are also wasting a lot of this one. So that's very ironical, right? So it might as well make sure that we are really managing our food so we will not have any food losses. Okay. So where do food gets lost? This is already in the Mentimeter earlier on. So you can see that 11% of the foods really get wasted or lost at the farm stage. Although some of you answered about at the home or restaurant, so it came close at 10%. Uh, so all this can happen in the school also. For those of you who are having school garden, so you take it as a farm stage. So try to see what kind of losses or wastage that you do when you do your school gardening, and even you're harvesting them with your students, and even processing them and storing them and then converting them as food dishes when you offer them in your school canteen. So try to make sure that just to be aware that food losses can happen in all these stages. And if you will look into the next slide, so at the farm, what are the causes of the losses at the farm because of inefficient harvesting practices, or perhaps the lack of machinery, the proper machinery, or perhaps the machines themselves make the damage. When you are doing some harvesting using machine, if you use it improperly, then you have crop damage. In transit, perhaps there's no cold storage. You can see it in most Southeast Asian. You can see trucks of vegetables just going around the highway, no cover, and then they get exposed. Then sometimes they get damaged because of environmental um, factors when they are in transit. And during processing, yes, sometimes we don't have the right equipment, and then we lack the measurement and data to show this kind of processing practices uh, for the storage, for the stores and restaurants, uh, poor planning of the stock management or poor menu planning because we don't really plan the menu that we will be offering in our student canteen, school canteen, and then also lack of food handling skills and awareness of our staff. At home, the same thing. We take for granted because this is at home, so we don't see, especially for those of us who have children, and then some children don't eat vegetables. That's why most of the food wasted in the at homes are really vegetables. And because all this is all about food preferences of our food members. So try to be aware of this so you can now see how you can prepare and also manage food waste in your schools. So types of food wasted. There is what you call the pre-consumer waste. So these are still the raw materials, and the raw materials when they are contaminated biologically, physically, or chemically. So we call them as pre-consumer waste. And then there's also what we call the post-consumer waste. These are when you already prepare the food and you already offer the food to your students, but the students did not eat and consume all the food. So that's what you call the post-consumer waste. And there's also packaging waste. For those of you who are uh, take out, uh, ordering food, and also some of your students also would take out food from your canteen or they order food from online and they have this packaging and they just throw it somewhere in your schools, and that is also environmental problem in your school. And of course spoilage sometimes it happens during the storage. So if you don't have a good management or inventory management, you just don't know. You still have the onions, but when you look at the onions, it's already uh, there are bacteria or fungal infection already, so it becomes spoilage because you are not tracking your inventory. So these are the types of food waste, ladies and gentlemen, that perhaps we should be aware of. Okay, so now I go with the approaches how to manage the food waste. There are a lot of things, so you can read it in the internet, but these are some of the things that I would like to share with you, and this is from UP, SUP. So important, and I don't know whether some of you have already conducted or experienced conducting a food waste audit in your school. So one approach is doing this. I will discuss this lengthily later on. And then the other one is really sorting and identifying the waste. So again, you are aware of like the organic and the non-organic. In most schools, you already have this kind of recycling bin, and that's where you will have to practice this one because eventually you will be doing some recycling later on. And the third one is really educating all the the school community members, not just once, but a regular training and orientation of the school community members. And the fourth one is really implementing separate waste separation system. Uh, Sometimes, because some schools have limited space, this will be very difficult for you to do that. But simple things can make a difference. So, like coming up with food bin on one area, so and then educating your students on where to put them, or your staff when they're throwing this, really separating them. So recyclable, organic, inorganic, you have them all in the internet. The types of materials from grade 1 to grade 7, or the quality of the materials that are really meant for recycling or really dumping and things like that in the uh, overall dumping side. Explore recycling options, composting. This is one of the Mentimeter question earlier on. And I guess most of you are very familiar on composting. Um, and lastly, but very important, is really monitoring and measuring the progress of your food waste management practices. So okay, so let's move on to the food audit. This is, like I said, perhaps in Indonesia, where I work before, some of our school partners are already practicing school food waste audit, because we have discussed this also with them. And it really requires to follow all these 7 steps. So first, I think you need to organize your food waste audit team. So it can be some teachers with your principal, and you can also your um, personnel, admin personnel, and also involve your student. So it doesn't have to be very big team. Maybe a 5 members would be fine. And then you will always have to set your food waste audit. So whether you can do it weekly or bi-weekly, every other week, or if you really have the time, then you can do it um, every day, or maybe like weekly or even monthly if you don't have much time. What is important is you can collect data later on. And that's why the third step is to really identify or decide what food items that you would like to collect and measure. What are the food wasted in your school that you would like to collect data about? So, is it about vegetables? Is it about the meat that is wasted? Is it about liquids? Or is it, you now have to decide on which one you would like to audit every time you do food waste audit. And then you should have to set up an audit station per day. So, because you will be collecting the food waste, and then you will have to segregate them. You have to separate them. So, you separate those um, the vegetables, you separate the fruits, you separate the meat, the fish. So later on, you would have a data on which of these food sources are mostly wasted in your school. So, for example, on a weekly basis, there are a lot more vegetables wasted. So now you would see that your students do not like vegetables. So now you would try to plan it out later on. And that is the next step. The fifth step is interview your students to learn why they did not finish a particular food item. So why did they not finish their vegetables? Or why they did not like the fish? And so on. It may be about food preferences. It may be because of the food preparation. Maybe it's too salty or too oily or too sweet, and so on and so forth. But what is important is you can know the reason why your students did not consume your food, and it becomes wasted. Okay. So later on, when you already have you already have the measurements of the food wasted. Then the next thing, when you already have this separated, and then you collect the data, and then now you have to strategize on how you will minimize the food wasted by your students. So, for example, how do we minimize the vegetables wasted? So now you have to look into your menu. You have to look into how you will prepare the menu on a weekly basis for your school canteen. Or perhaps you will now see your inventory or your purchases. Maybe next week we don't need to buy this kind of vegetable because this is the one that the students don't like to eat. Or maybe they will prefer more of the fish or chicken rather than beef or pork or seafood. The data that you will collect on the food waste audit is very important for you to make intervention or strategies to minimize the food waste again when you implement your program. So right after this, when you now make some changes or you have decided your strategy to reduce the food waste, then you need to monitor them. You need to see whether there are progress in the practice or the habits of your students or the school committee members on really managing food waste. That's why when you organize your team, as much as possible, you have representation from any of the members of your school community so they can contribute their ideas on how you can really manage food waste. So that is a simple way of looking at it. So I just made a very simple form that you can use in coming up with your food waste audit, or this is what you call a food waste audit sheet. So you just have to indicate the date of your audit, because sometimes um, morning and afternoon there would be different food habits of your students, or even like Monday, Tuesday, or Friday they would have some different habits. Some of them may be fasting, some of them may be not. So you might as well keep track on the date of your audit. That's why it's very important to indicate it in the sheet, and perhaps whether you would indicate it whether you conducted it in the morning or in the afternoon. And then the type of food wasted when you already segregated them, and then how much is the amount. Usually you need some weighing scale so you can determine the amount, how many grams that are wasted, and then you approximate the cost. This is optional because some of you, well, not all of us have the funds every day. So you might as well see the cost effect of food waste in your school. So this is a justification for you to tell your school community that we don't need to waste it because the amount we waste is like this, and we don't have any funds. We cannot get funding support from the government anymore. So if the parents association will contribute, this is what we are wasting if we will not be managing our food, something like that. And then you can also try to see why are these food wasted, like I have mentioned earlier on. Maybe because the food preparation is not good. It's too salty, oily, or sweet, and no taste, or something like that. Or um, we are bored eating the same food. There are a lot of reasons why the students would not eat that. So the interview portion for your food waste audit is very important. And then now you can keep track. So if they are the reason, then you can come up with your ideas to reduce the weight. This is what I discussed earlier on as far as coming up with your intervention or your food preparation food strategy for managing the waste. So you can alter or modify this. You can add more columns depending on what kind of data you would like to collect. So these are just the basic information that I'm giving to you, but you can add more if you would like to really come up with policy changes or regulations in the school so you can have more data to be your basis. Okay, so I think I'm now coming to the last portion of my presentation. So this is just about developing a food safety and food waste management culture. Uh, what is a culture? School culture. The culture is supposed to be the everyday daily life that your students or the school community members would be practicing or implementing. So the culture is something that everybody agrees on. The culture is something that we need to follow and do not compromise. And the culture is something that would help our school to be a much better environment for our school committee members. So, what are some of the things that we would like you to develop for this? One, it's very important that we formulate and communicate what your food safety and food waste management goals, policies, and expected outputs are to your community members. Not only the teachers would have to know this or the school principal, everybody should know this so they can know that we are aiming for something. If they don't know that, then they don't care. They won't care to waste their food, or they're not going to uh, care about food safety, washing hands, cleaning the canteen, especially for the food vendors. If you have food vendors and they are just renting some kiosks in the schools, then it's very important that you communicate this kind of policies and goals and expected outputs to them. And then you have to conduct continuous education and involve them in the implementation. Sometimes we only do orientation, and then after that, no more. And this is now for the selected schools. You have already your project activities. You have to inform your school communities. You have to educate them. You have to train them and then involve them so they can feel that they are really a part of the whole project. You can also incorporate concepts and principles of food safety and food waste management in classroom or even in extracurricular activities. So this is a challenge for most teachers when you are doing your lesson plan. Try to see, maybe in biology I can put some concepts on food safety. So try to inculcate that in your lesson plan so your students can also absorb them. This is a very challenging one, but it can be effective if you're really good in developing a good lesson plan or even learning materials for your students, or even like extracurricular activities like school gardening or even like cleaning in the canteen and involving them in food preparation and so on and so forth. And of course, one time is not enough, so it's very important that we have a lot of reminders in strategic places in the school, in corridors, in canteen, and even in the library. You can put some reminders about food safety and food waste management. So anywhere they go, anywhere they look at, they can be reminded. I have to wash my hands, or I have to clean and throw my waste in the proper waste bin. You know, those things become a habit and become a culture in the school. And then we organize annual events. We observe global events also because they are World Food Safety Day or World Food Safe Waste Management Day. So try to relate to all these global events uh, so the students or even the whole community of your school become aware that this is not just in our school, but this is happening all over the world. And they will feel that we need to contribute to this global agenda. Okay. So next, and then I think these are the four last tips that I would like to give you. Truly is very important to conduct periodic monitoring and evaluation. Most projects, most school projects, or even in the government, fail just because of poor monitoring and evaluation system. So I think for the next session, there will be a session on monitoring and evaluation, and I will be giving this lecture next time. So what is important really is regular. It could be regular because if it is not regular, then we are not developing this habit. Sometimes the students would uh, ask for it. So, oh, no more monitoring. Why? And then they would, okay, teacher teacher A will not monitor me, so I will just be not observing food safety again. That's why it's very important because habits are very important. When we develop the good habits, then it will become the organizational culture later on. Next is really to document and report the progress to your community members, school committee members. So the parents are very eager to know because they're after the safety of their kids. So you might as well tell them what you are doing on the school and how you are progressing with your food safety and food waste management programs, and also the local education office, because this will also important for them to recognize you later on. That's why the next one is recognize and provide incentives to those who comply with your policies and participating in your projects, so they can be motivated to continue their involvement. And of course, perhaps if you have this, your local government could also recognize you and also award your efforts about that. And last but not the least, it's very important also to celebrate and promote your achievements and success stories in social media, because each of us can contribute in our small ways. Even though your school is very small, you're located in rural area, but you are having good best practices and you promote them. And big schools in the urban area and other areas, then we say, wow, they can do it. Then perhaps we can also do that. So I think this is very important to have this kind of promotion of what your achievements already on food safety and food waste. And all this will contribute to creating this kind of culture in the school. And once this is created, no matter how the principal, because sometimes principal come and go, and sometimes teachers come and go, they get rotation, but because the culture is already there, then it will remain there. And the students, because from grade one until they graduate, they have already acquired this kind of habit, and that will be perpetuated and sustained in the years to come. So that's it. This is how I would like to contribute to you to practice food safety and food waste management culture in your school. So thank you for your attention, and I welcome any questions for discussion later on. So back to you, Piepa. I hope I did not consume much time. I think it's already 4 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jess. So, may I request our participants to give the virtual appreciation to Dr. Jess in the chat box. All right, okay. So, I would like to open the floor for the question and answer. Do you have any issue or any concern that you want to share to Dr. Jess so that he can, since he's here with us already, so he can give the suggestions. So I would like to ask if any school now practicing food waste management or trying to do something to reduce the food waste at the school. I have one question from the Cambodia, Dr. Jess. From Tina. Tina, would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question to Dr. Jess?
Okay.
Miss Tina from Cambodia, would you like to unmute yourself? Are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, thank you. And thank you very much, Doctor, for your very comprehensive sharing. It is
Okay.
really reflect to my current situation and habit, especially for the food waste management. And uh, I really appreciate for this topic. But I just have one
Tina, your voice broken. I think that maybe your
about
Wi-Fi. Yeah.
the identify waste or waste management. How could
Mhm.
it will contribute to the food loss management? Because to me, I think that actually yes, in the especially for the community people, they don't know well about the waste management. how
Mhm.
important about this.
Mhm.
And to me, it's quite new for me that just know that we just change our behavior to manage the waste by identify the type of waste, and it will
Mhm.
contribute to the food loss management as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for that question. It's a very nice question. Well, food segregation or food identification, like I said, is very important because you will know already what are the kinds of food that is usually wasted in your school. So if you already have the data on that, then you will already adjust your meal preparation for your school canteen. So if, like for example, when we went to one of our schools in Lao, PDR, so we went there during lunch times, and so we saw some of the students eating, and the vegetable offered to them is the morning glory, so the kangkong, we call it in the Philippines. And then they unconsciously, some of the school kids, because they are the one to wash their plates. So some of the school kids, they go proceed to the waste basket, and they are throwing the kangkong in the waste basket. So that, then we told the kitchen staff. So how many times you offer kangkong meal or vegetable using kangkong to the school? Almost every day. So just imagine if almost every day you offer kangkong or morning glory, of course the children will get bored. So that's why that is the importance of identifying the food that is wasted. So you will not be repeating, or you have to recycle, or you really have to change your menu preparation so there will not be food wasted. I hope I answered your question. So the importance of this is part of the food waste audit. Yeah. So once you already have the information of what are the you have already identified what are the food that is usually wasted, then you need to have your strategy.
Hey,
You need
thank
to have
you.
some changes.
Thank you so much.
That's
Very
great.
clear.
Yep, that's
Yes.
a
Okay.
very great example, Dr. Jess. So maybe we can ask more from the our other participants if you want to share the case of your school so that so we can learn together. Right. Okay.
Hello.
Hello, yes, please unmute yourself and go on, please.
Hello. Good afternoon, Dr. Jess. I have one question because
Yep.
I noticed some of the parents they prepare their food as early as 5 a.m. So they're
Uh-huh.
preparing the food for the lunch for the kids. So is there any guidelines on the
Uh-huh. Yeah.
time for the food to be best consumed, or any suggestion or tips on doing that? Thank
Mm-hmm.
you.
So, well, that's really a very good question. So, you mean that the food that the parents prepared is for lunch, not for breakfast, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So from 5 a.m. and then lunch will be at 12 noon. So that's about like how many hours? But in my lecture, you said like we need to store them uh, in the right temperature so there will not be any bacterial growth. So, okay. So it's a very good question. So the first thing maybe that what we would like to normally would suggest is like, uh, where do they put the food? Okay, so sometimes, well, the most common food container is a plastic. And so for the plastic, sometimes it's not properly sealed. And that's where it can have some contamination also. But then again, well, it's really quite expensive if the family would invest on glass containers, something like that, or perhaps to put the packaged lunch in insulated lunch box. Uh, do you know the insulated lunch box, the ones that can keep it cold or ones that can keep it hot, something like that? So
Yes.
that
Yes.
could be another option. But in most cases, I think the basic is for the food preparation itself, it's really safe. So the duration is really we cannot control much because the time element is very long. Hopefully that it will lessen the food contamination when
Yes.
the utensils of the students is clean when they now start to eat the food, and then they wash their hands, and so that could really minimize food contamination. uh, that's what I think. But the time duration,
Taking over.
it's really uncontrollable because once the parents prepare it at 5 o'clock, because they also go to the office, and we cannot avoid that. But container would help.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Jess. Right. Okay. Any other question to Dr. Jess? Right. You can type the question in the chat box here, or you can unmute yourself. All right. May I allow for one more question? Any question from the Philippines? I saw many participants from the practice elementary school here.
Mhm.
Any question, please? Okay, Dr. Jess, seem like your presentation's very, very clear. And so I hope that our participant can apply from your suggestion into that school system. So,
Mhm.
thank you very much for your presentation, your expertise that share with us. It's very, very useful. And again, before I end the session, I received one comment from the Philippines. May I read out loud here? Our school prepare weekly cycle menu for the student to taste various food. Wow, that is very interesting. Thank you for sharing with us. So I want to know that how's the result from your weekly cycle menu from Practice Elementary School. Okay, there is no comment, further comments here. So, all right. Okay, so this is a part of the menu preference for the student. Right.
Just to comment, Biapa, I think that's a good one involving the students, but hopefully the school also monitor whether there are wastes in terms of what kind of food they prepare on a weekly basis. So it doesn't mean also like if you're involving the schools, depending on how many schools, how many students you are involving, because food is really a matter of preferences. So this food can be good to you, but I may not like it. And so this one who will be involved in the cycle might not be representative of the other students. So still, you would need to really monitor whether the menu that you prepare is really acceptable to the majority of your students,
Yeah.
not just the students who were involved in the taste test. So
Right.
again, it's all about monitoring about the food waste. Yeah, that's a good
Right.
one. You need this kind of cycle, and you involve the students. That's a good practice also.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jess. This is very good strategies to reduce the food waste, right? So, okay, everyone. So, before we end the session, I would like to request everyone to give a big round of applause to Dr. Jess. Thank you very much, Dr. Jess, for your expertise, your contribution to this training session. So, before I end the session, I would like to ask everyone for the upcoming activities. Okay, so our team now showing the Mentimeter here. What training topic do you want to learn more to improve the school meal, school food environment, and school well-being? You can scan the QR code and let me know. This is the last question so that it can be helpful for our planning to provide the additional training session to you and to meet the needs of the school. Okay, may you please prepare the mobile phone, scan the QR code, and type the word that you want to learn more so that I can organize additional training session, maybe in the, in March, or maybe let's see that if you really want to learn more. Okay, so no question, no answer. No answer meaning that you already fulfill with the knowledge that we provide to you. Please prepare your mobile phone, or even you can type in the chat box and let me know. So some of you want to know more on the food waste management, or some of you want to know the menu planning for the student. Okay, so more food waste. Okay, anything else you want to learn more? Menu planning, healthy eating. Okay, so you want to do the cooking skills. Wow, interesting. I can teach you how to do the tom yum soup and omelette, Thai omelette. Well, there are here that eat healthy eating habits. That's interesting for Malaysia. Daily meal planning. Wow, I think menu planning for the student is now become like, in the high demands. Okay, integration of the physical action. Menu planning. Okay. Wow, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I
Any
think this is
more?
really good. Menu planning is very important. This is also one of the topics suggested by our school partners in Cambodia, Piapa.
Yes, that's right. Menu planning. Right. Okay. Anything else that you want to learn more? Okay. All right. Okay. That will be taking into our consideration if we could have like, additional training session on menu planning. Okay. So I think that menu planning become like, many school would like to know about it. Yeah, menu planning. That interesting, Dr. Jess here. Right. Okay, so thank you very much for your input for for my last question. So we are now reaching to the end of the session. So I would like to request everyone to open the camera for the photo session. All right, okay, everyone, our technical team ready for the photo session. So we will take the photo for 2 shots. Right. Okay, everybody ready? So for the first shot. Okay, everybody keep smiling, right? And I hope that you enjoy the training session very much. Right, and today's session is the last session for this second phase training series. And from your inputs, I may consider to organize another training session. Maybe I will let you know. Please keep stay tuned with us. Okay, everybody open the camera now. Right, so I will take the photo for 2 shots. The first shot, just normal one first. All right, okay, official one. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Everyone smile. Okay. The second shot. Okay. Freestyle. As you know my style, right? Okay. Whatever you want to. Okay. Dr. Jess, you ready? All right. All participants from all the countries. Thank you for your participation. Right. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Right. Okay. Thank you very much for your participation. And I saw many of you like continuing stay with us since the session number 1 and then session number 2 yesterday and the third session. Thank you very much for your participation. And may I show you the post-training feedback form for your e-certificate? Right. Please scan the QR code or click on the link in the chat box. And just, this is like attendance check. And after the training, we will send you the e-certificate. Okay, please, I will give time for everyone to share on the screen. If anyone want to say something, you can unmute yourself and say hello or say thank you to Dr. Jess.
Thank you, Dr. Jen, for presentation.
Right, thank you so much, Fanny. And anyone else want to say thank you to Dr. Jess?
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right. Dr.
Yeah,
Jess,
okay,
thank
thank you,
you
Dr.
very
Jess.
much.
Okay, I just want to know, is there a sort of format or a sets of so that we can do our own simple monitoring and report for our school, food safety and school monitoring program? Thank you.
Thank you,
Well,
sir.
thank you very much for that question. I think there would be another session, right, Piapa, on monitoring and evaluation. So perhaps
Yep.
we can discuss it lengthily during that session, sir. So, but yes, there are, but it depends on the situation of the school. So it can be
That's right.
very, very contextual.
Yep. So I'm planning to invite other school to join again in the monitoring and evaluation meeting. So this is in our plan in March. But however, I would like to finalize the program first, and then I will share the information to all school again and invite you to join to continue the joining in our project. Okay, so thank you so much from Malaysia who raised the issue on the monitoring and evaluation. Thank you so much. And anything else that you want to share with us? Oh yeah, thank you, Jess, Dr. Jess, for the message. Okay, so I would like to end the training session today. And thank you very much for your participation. So please scan the QR code for the post-training feedback form and attendance check. And then I will keep you informed on the other activities of this program. Thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you, Miss
Thank
Piapa.
you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a nice
Bye.
day. Keep healthy.
Thank you. Goodbye, Dr. Miss Piapa.
Bye bye. Thank
Bye.
you, Ibu. Thank you very much.
Hello, Dr. Jess is around. Just a
He
quick
already
question.
gone. Yes, he already
Already.
gone.
Or I just wonder if we use the about black soldier fly, can we use it in a canteen as part of our food management program, our food waste management program?
Your question was, sir?
Can we use the black soldier fly, BSF worms, to use as part of the food waste management to compost the waste into fertilizer?
Yeah, that is another thing. Okay, would you mind to drop? Maybe I can send his email to you. All right, so
All
that
right,
you can email to him on
right.
your inquiries.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir, you are Chong Tong Seng, right? You are the
Yes,
person who WhatsApp to me, right? Okay. So
yes.
I will send his contact details to you so you can email him, right?
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
sir, thank you. So please don't forget to do the post-training feedback form. And if you have any question, you just drop the question in the form and then I will follow up with the speaker. Okay, thank you very much for your active participation today. We will close